viewers. Welcome to the Black Agenda Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Guest. Going to be doing a solo interview. This is my second one, but my first video solo interview. Devin is at the house. He's going to be doing his own solo things as well. But we're trying to just do some fun things and put out more content so you can listen and watch us and get to know us, but also get to know some other individuals that we interact with. So for my interview today, I'm actually going to be sitting with Jake Dean Taylor, who is an actor, a writer, comedy, improviser. Man, I can't talk tonight, but you get where I'm going. I'm trying to improvise like Jake, but it's not working apparently. But we'll leave that to him. But yeah, we just wanted to talk to Jake tonight just to kind of see what he's got going on, who Jake is, get his insight into some of the current events of what's going on in America. So yeah, Jake, let's go ahead and get into it. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello. And by the way, you forgot philanthropist. You also forgot wildlife extraordinaire.
I know there's so many different nouns and adjectives that I probably could have thrown in there, but I'll tell everybody to make sure they go to your bio link at the end, so that way they'll get to know even more about you. But just to kind of start off, Jake, the first segment, for our viewers here is going to be a little bit about Jake in a more broad way, because I always like to say, everyone, no matter who they are regular people. And in order for us to really get to know them, let's just start there. So, Jake, I think the easiest thing, to kind of start with is the pandemic. We've been going through that for a year now, and it seems like maybe there'll be an end in sight in maybe June, July, after we get more vaccines. But everyone's been on lockdown and everyone's ready to go back to normal. So let's just get your take. How have you been holding up? How have you been doing during the quarantine? What's been going on?
Yeah, definitely hit the nail on the head with the idea that it really sort of does feel a little suffocating and like there is no end in sight. So I do think that, to be very honest, some days are really just better than others. Like today, I woke up feeling really great, feeling really recharged. And then even just 2 days ago, I was feeling incredibly depleted. So I think it's very much one of those, you check in the morning and then you kind of check out at night, go to sleep, and you leave the day behind and you just try to start new every single day. And that's really what I've been trying to implement. I also implement physical exercise, walking. I have a very energetic puppy. So I try to go to the park, run with her. I lift weights. I do HIIT training for myself. I also do personal training on the side for supplemental income during these times. And those all really help to balance my mental health.
Yeah, I guess not just, but I moved to LA October 2019. Whenever you mentioned you had a puppy, it instantly made it always. Anytime someone mentions they have a dog, it always makes me think of my dog. I had a dog. His name was Albus. After Albus Dumbledore, and the fact that he was white, and in Latin, Albus means white. But he was a Great Dane. And unfortunately, for you viewers, if you may not know this, when you come to LA, no place really allows you to have a Great Dane. most places, most places are like 25, maybe 50 pounds, and there's always going to be breed restrictions. And definitely, Albus was a restriction. But fortunately, I had a coworker that was actually praying and looking for a Great Dane, so we were able to give him away and kind of, obviously we miss him, but I feel good about knowing that he's at least with a good home. So I definitely know that your puppy, she's definitely helping you to keep calm. One of the other things is probably helping you keep calm. And I know, being an actor, you probably like movies. And obviously, everyone looks forward to big movies, big events. That's kind of a thing that I think in America we all love going to the theater. What are some of the newer releases that you've been kind of looking out for, that you've been paying attention to?
Sure. First of all, I love superheroes. They are very clearly a queer theme, motif, metaphor situation. And I've always grown up with them. I read some comics as a kid. I was surrounded by it. I played video games, all that stuff. So that is a major part of my movie and even television viewing process. But I've been super excited for WandaVision. I think it's one of the only really amazing shows out right now that Oh my gosh, it's just so stupid good. I'm just like, "Hi, let me be on your show. Thank you." But, that's really exciting. The Zack Snyder cut for Justice League, I watched the trailer for that, and it looks like a completely different movie, and I'm super excited to watch that, get into it. Um, let's see, what else? There's so much media coming out. I thought that, like, I May Destroy You was great television. I think I've been leaning more towards television than movies lately, and I don't know if it's like I found myself, and maybe some people can relate to this. I found myself when I start a movie, if you don't grab me, and this never used to be my thing, but if you don't grab me within the first 5 minutes, I'm turning it off because it's like I
Yeah.
want to be enthralled, I want to be captured, and I want to be in it from beginning to end. And I know that's like a tall order, but like, girl, I got nothing else to do right now. I'm staring at a wall. Please don't give me a wall. Give me something. So,
I mean, that's what the entertainment industry is supposed to do. If it's in the name, it's supposed to entertain and engage. And I think I can second you on watching more TV and TV shows because I think I've been doing that a little bit. Everyone told me to start watching The Boys, so I took that up, took that offer up, and it actually really dark, but it's one of those times where I was like, man, if you ever want like villains to win, this is kind of your show to watch because it's really interesting. But you also said video games, and that's another thing that if anybody looks you up, that's something that you put out that you are a video gamer. So I guess the first question I always ask people who video game, I always say PC or console.
ooh, see, that's tricky because I was raised on PC and my brothers are avid PC players. But as I grew older, went to college, having a PC, moving it all over the place is just unsustainable. Getting a console is so much easier. And anymore, every game is cross platform, except for like the heavy hitters, like maybe like Halo. But now I have a PC, but I would probably consider myself more of a console person just because I've had it for so long and I've been adapted to it for so long.
Now, what are you? Xbox, PlayStation? You got Switch? What do you have?
Hmm. A Switch is on the horizon. Not now, not in the next week, maybe the next month. But I have an Xbox and a PlayStation. A friend of mine works for PlayStation and was so kind as to send a refurbished PlayStation 4 in my direction as a gift. And I was like, hey, I've never had a PlayStation, so this is great. And I run with an Xbox mostly. I have friends. I do Twitch every so often. We play group games. It's a whole thing. It's a whole queer kit and caboodle.
Oh yeah, exactly. I remember like when I was in high school, there were about me and 12 other guys who would meet up at one of our friends' house, and we would have four different Xboxes, and we would system link, and everybody would have a TV with three to four team members playing Halo and things like that. So I know about those big extravaganzas. And since you're new to PlayStation, I'm going to recommend my favorite gaming franchise. It's only on PlayStation. It's God of War. I don't know if you've looked at it yet, but if you haven't, that is by far the best. Like it's amazing.
Adrian, you're talking to a seasoned with salt, pepper, cumin gamer. Of course, I've heard of God of War. It's actually really good. And I used to play in college. I used to play God of War because my roommate and best friend in college owned a PlayStation. And so she was like, have you ever played the God of War series? And I was like, no, girl. I mean, the guy's hot, but like, no. And so she goes, you got to play it. I will sit here and I will watch you play it. And so I played through all of one and two. I was like, okay, it's fun. I get it, but maybe not my bag. Skipped God of War 3. And then when this newest God of War came out, I was like, okay, you're putting some money into this. Okay, you're giving me a little bit of everything. And I mean, I've been playing it. I've been thoroughly enjoying myself. So,
Good, good. Which I will say that you skipped the third one, and I know to me that was one of the better ones. It was very short gameplay, but the graphics, really advanced compared to one and two, and just the overall, action in it was really good. So I would challenge you to go back and hit that one. And another, I guess, kind of a last little question to kind of round off this, getting to know you a little bit. I'm a big foodie, and when I moved to LA, everyone told me that, yeah, I see, see you doing that. Everyone told me LA has got the cuisine. This is it's a hub for food here. But the pandemic hit, and that kind of slowed that exploration of Los Angeles cuisine down. But whenever you have friends who never come to LA, what are some of those top spots you take them to?
Oh, easy. The now I'm gonna get the name wrong, and it's gonna be like you're embarrassing. It's the window at American Beauty. It's in Venice. It's like right off of the beach. I don't know the exact cross streets, but just Google it. We're in the 21st century. But they have the best fried chicken sandwich I have ever
Oh wow!
tasted in my life. It is like
So you're
explosively mind
talking
blowing.
you're talking to someone from Mississippi. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're talking to someone from Mississippi. So now I'm going to really have to look this place up.
I'm telling you, the crunch. There's slaw. If you're not a slaw queen, I promise you, you will be after this. They have a little bit of mayonnaise on it. I think they have pickles on it. The bread is so delicious. And like, I don't do fried chicken because that makes my stomach sick. But this fried chicken, it like does something different. It hits different. It's so good. You gotta try it. But I would say that place is really delicious. And then the other place, if you're into, if you're not vegan or vegetarian, this is another great place for you. I hope that they're going to be open after this whole situation. But it's called Burgers Never Say Die, and it's in Silver Lake. It's like on the border between Silver Lake and Glendale, and they have probably the best burger I've had pretty much in LA and probably even New York. And it's really, really, really good. So I would suggest those two places.
Cool. Hey, thank you for that. I'm gonna have to check those out because yeah, I used to before I moved here. I helped my mentor chef open up his first restaurant in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was kind of like a brunch sous chef. And our fried chicken was really, really amazing. So I'm gonna have to really, really check that out for sure. But
Definitely.
yeah, Jake, so that's going to do it for our first little segment here, viewers. Like I said, I wanted to do a little segment to get to know Jake, but not necessarily about his work yet. We're going to get to that later on, but just to kind of humanize him and just show that he's just a regular person too. So stick
Not a
with
robot.
us. We're going to, that's right. Even though he does so much, he's not a robot. But stick with us, viewers, and we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, viewers, let's get back into it. Remember, we're having a conversation with Jake Taylor today, just wanting to highlight him. One of the things that we wanted to do, Jake, was talk a little bit about current events. Everybody who watches the Black Agenda podcast, we do weekly roundups. We always talk to our guests about issues. And being that, you are unapologetically, queer, I wanted to kind of center our current event section just around some queer issues and get your thoughts on what's going on because the first question it really works well because I think everyone is when Joe Biden was elected president, I think everyone had a sigh of relief. I think that no matter if you're in the LGBTQ community or you're black or you're Muslim or you're anybody, most people were not too fond of Donald Trump except a small sector of the Republican Party. But one of the things that we see with this new administration is this kind of renaissance to say we're going to really help the LGBT community. We're going to undo a lot of the injustices that Donald Trump and his administration did. And you even had, President Biden sent out a global memo just really saying the U.S. is committed to expanding civil rights for the LGBT community worldwide. So we already see that, it's going to be a different day for people in the community. So I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts. Whenever you saw that we weren't going to have, 4 more years of Donald Trump, what was your reaction? What do you think about that?
Well, about potentially having Donald Trump and then
Well,
not, and then
well, I guess thinking about that, we're going to actually have someone who's not going to be dividing the country. We'll take that angle.
Gotcha, gotcha. We'll take that. First of all, I want to say that I'm in that same boat, paddling along with you. I was on election day, after election day, until that Saturday, was terrified. But I will say that after inauguration day, that day was even scary as well. After inauguration day, there was a big sigh of relief of like, okay, the dust is settling. It's finally over. This is okay. And since then, I know that he's gotten back. He's lifted the ban for transgender people in the military, which was already a stupid ban to begin with. Because anyway, I could get all into it, but it was dumb. But he's lifted that, which I think has not only shown that he sees the transgender community, but he's also like, you are no different than anybody else, no matter how you outwardly express yourself, or no matter what, how you express yourself inwardly, or whatever your gender is. It doesn't matter. You're serving the country that is supposed to be supporting you. And I think that that was a great initiative
Mhm.
into like, you're serving our country, let us serve you as well by not ostracizing you. So I thought that was really great. I also think that I think that being globally committed to supporting the LGBTQ plus community is also super important, because you do have some countries around the world that unfortunately are pretty behind on those types of policies and civil rights and human rights movements. And I think what America does is America sits here and says, we are the best of the best of the best. Bet if you're the best of the best of the best, be the best of the best of the best. If you want to set the record, set the record. Why are you so scared? Do it. And where I do think that Joe Biden could push a little more, I do also believe that it's a good first step in at least showing the divisiveness beforehand and what the nation and the world could be if you just lead with equality. That's it. Like, people are not asking for anything more than, I'm a human being, treat me like a human being. And like, that's that on that. Sorry, I get very passionate.
No, you're absolutely no. Hey, that's why I had you on. That's why we're talking about this kind of stuff. It's like I said, to paint the picture of who Jake, who Jake is. So I think you're absolutely right. That's what it's all about. I always tell people, if America is going to be the best of the best, if we say that this is the greatest country to live in, then we have to set a standard for what's right and what's wrong, how to treat people, how not to treat people. And like you said, it's just people who want rights. I mean, I'm African American. It was the same struggle that the African American community had. It's just we're people. We just want the same thing. We want to be able to buy a house, have kids, get married, just like anyone else. And the next question here, I saw this headline out of Arizona where it was talking about a lawmaker comparing transgender individuals to farm animals. And I think a lot of people can have their viewpoints on anything, obviously, because there's a lack of understanding for a lot of the different points on the spectrum of the LGBTQ plus community. So whenever you're talking to someone who's maybe going through sort of like oppression and persecution, like being compared to a farm animal, what sort of advice do you give to members of the community to deal with that oppression?
Oh man, that's a deep and heavy one, because I think it's multi-layered and super complicated. But I will do my best to explain it maybe in the best way that I can. I would first shut up and sit back, and I would listen to what's going on. And then I would for me personally, it would be very difficult for me to give advice for a transgender person, because it's like, okay, you're cisgendered. Like, and that's not meant to like diminish what I have to say or what I believe or anything like that. But the reality of the situation is, I think instead of giving advice, it's more important to uplift and be quiet and listen to their stories and pave way for their stories to be told, so that these situations don't happen where they're being compared to farm animals, or even more, people who are on the same power level as these people who are comparing transgender people to farm animals are more educated and are able to say, hey, that's not what that is. So it's really not so much me giving advice to a transgender person. It's more like me giving them a hug and then standing in front of them to block, and then putting them on my shoulders so that they can speak up and they can speak out.
Good. I like that. I guess one category of people that you might be able to give some advice to. a lot of people come out and say I'm an ally of the community, whether it's lesbian, gay, bi, straight, transgender. Everyone says they're an ally. What when people say they're an ally and want to support the community, what are some ways you see that they could kind of come in and really support the community, especially in situations like this where you have sectors of the community that that are seeing heavy oppression?
That's also a really good question. I would say I have straight ally friends that I've known for 10 plus years, and it's been such a struggle for all of us because there were microaggressions. We didn't know how to handle it. We got upset. And then, of course, by growing up and getting more experience and meeting other people and hearing more educated people talk to us, we were able to form the vocabulary to sort of mend these relationships and then move forward stronger together and stronger for other people. So I would probably say the biggest piece of advice I could give to an ally is stop talking. It's not about you. It doesn't matter how much you care. It doesn't matter how many rallies you've been to. It doesn't matter how many gay cousins you have. It doesn't matter how many girls or boys you've kissed to show your allyship. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, your rights are not being stripped away from you. So it doesn't matter how much of an ally you are, talking about it doesn't do anything. Show up and do not speak over. It doesn't matter who's next to you, just don't speak over, just show. Numbers alone are intimidating enough. Signing petitions is a really great way to get people's attention. Talking to your family members who might be living in these spread out rural areas who don't necessarily, they're just not educated. They've been raised in generations of oppression or being the oppressor in multiple ways, and just having these honest conversations. Because I think what a lot of allies don't understand is they want so much to be in the thick of it, which is great, but they start to compare themselves like, yeah, I'm being oppressed too. And it's like, no, you're not. You can be in the thick of it. You can be in the trenches with us, but you have to understand that you have more power than I do. And I have more power than they do. And once we start understanding these power dynamics, we can really start shifting things to a more equal, just society.
I like that. That's powerful because I think that that's what you see from a lot of people who try to help with causes, that they almost try to become a victim of it as well. And it's like, no, it's not about you. You're here to support. You're here to listen, pitch in, move some chairs if you can or whatever. But you're not the spotlight. So um,
I'm not going to
the
break
last,
the nail. You pick up that chair.
I've got something else to do. The last question here to kind of round this second segment out is very general. I think everybody at this point knows Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Probably everybody's heard about some of her crazier antics like Jewish space lasers and things like that. But one of the things you may not know is that she was supporting a move to remove all of the pride flags from U.S. embassies. And my first thought was I was like, okay, it's just symbolic or whatever, but it's like it's more than that because it's a symbol. I mean, that's what a symbol. It means a lot more than just removing a flag. So, Jake, my question to you is like it's just very broad. I mean, do you ever think there's going to be a point where people like her and others understand that the LGBTQ plus community just wants the same rights and freedoms that blacks, whites, Christians, straights, and everybody else has? You think there's ever going to be a moment where people can just kind of understand that?
Not today, not tomorrow, not next year, probably not even 10 years from now. I didn't even think in my lifetime I would see gay marriage being legalized because I come from a family where my parents almost kicked me out and I had to go back into the closet. So I never dreamed that the possibilities that we have today could be a thing. So I think it's progressing. I think it's moving well. I think it's moving quickly. And I think that the queer community is organized. And I think that that is what gives it the biggest punch that it can. I will also say that when we strip religion from policy, we will actually see progression when it comes to these ideals. And as long as religion and a book can dictate people's rights, we will always have that friction. So we have to sever that tie and really let it be that has nothing to do with people's human rights in order for us to truly find some semblance of equality in the magnitude that you're talking about.
I completely agree. Most obviously, most people don't know this, but for I don't even know how long, maybe a year or so, I served as a youth pastor of a Methodist church, and that was kind of how I always view things. Because I always tell people I'm going to run for president in 2028. Probably won't get it, but 2032 that'll be the year. But when I always tell people when I am going to be in office, no matter if it's that level or something else, I understand I'm a Christian, but I also understand that with my office, I have to do what's right. I mean, there's constituents, and it's not necessarily about compromising your morals because I think that there are ways that you can see that what you're doing is doing good. It's all about choice and free will. I was talking to someone who said like they don't like Democrats because they're about abortion. And I was like, just the fact that people give someone the option to do something doesn't mean that they're endorsing the option. I mean, if you think about it, technically everyone got free will. That's what Christianity or every religion's always about. So I totally get where you're coming from, where everyone should just realize that free will and just kind of live together. So,
Totally.
viewers, we're going to take one more or another break here. And when we come back, we're going to be asking some questions to Jake about his career and his vision. So, yeah, so yeah, exactly. These are the big questions here. So, stick with us, and we'll be back on the other side. All right, viewers, let's get back into it. We've got Jake Dean Taylor with us. We're wanting to talk a little bit about Jake's vision, his career. So, here are kind of like the meat of Jake right here. So, one thing that I discovered, Jake, while reading your bio, I saw that you relocated from New York to LA to pursue an acting career. And LA obviously is like New York is an entertainment hub, and I can probably see why you made the move out here because of Hollywood and things. So since making that move, how has that affected your acting career?
It has, that's a really good question because I think that we tend to compare to despair, especially when it comes to social media platforms. We tend to see other people in our same category maybe getting more, not getting as much, and we tend to get wrapped up in that. So if you asked me maybe 2 years ago, I would have said, I could be doing more. I could be doing more. And now looking back, I think that what it's done for my acting career is it's given me the opportunity to dive headfirst into the shark pool and show myself, no, you're a shark. You just forgot you were a shark. And I think that that's really what this has done for me. It's given me that confidence. I've been able to meet some really great people who are, I wouldn't say movers and shakers, but I would say that they're definitely like tiptoeing and maybe like shimmying a little bit in the industry. And I think that, it's all about making connections. I'm meeting so many really great vibed people. I've done a couple of low key commercials. I've gotten a ton of auditions. I've gone on a ton of callbacks. I've really started to delve into my writing more, especially not so much sketch comedy, but pilots and features. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But it's just, I think the biggest thing is it's really allowed me to see that everything that I dreamt of as a kid is possible.
Nice, I like that. And one of the things to kind of a follow up to that, I feel that a lot of people who aspire to be in this industry feel like they have to make this big move to LA or make the big move to maybe even New York. If you think someone is going to be able to excel in the industry, do you really feel like they need to go ahead and make a move to like LA or something like that? Is that a requirement? You think?
I think eventually, yes. But the way that things are going now with streaming and even like Atlanta, or I should say more broadly, Georgia, and even places like Miami are starting to become hubs for television and film now. It's not necessarily just New York or LA. So I would really behoove somebody to consider looking into that more, especially because places in Georgia are still affordable. Miami is still relatively affordable in consideration or in contrast to LA and New York. Um, do I think it's an absolute necessity? No. But what I will say is before you make the move, ask yourself if you're ready. And there's a difference between am I ready and am I asking that because I'm scared, or am I ready and I'm asking that because I'm not sure what I want to do. I think those are two really different questions, because I think it is just as important for you to hone your craft at a place where it is still affordable. Really dig deep, figure out what your niche is, ask yourself your questions. Who am I? What's my message? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What kind of artist do I want to be? And then once you've sort of, done that a little bit and you've really allowed yourself time to cook, then make the jump to New York and LA, because it's very, very, very easy to get washed away. The currents are so strong.
No, you're right. It is. It's expensive to live here, and that industry. I mean, obviously, since you've got Hollywood and the hub here, it's very very competitive. So yeah, you better be ready if you are going to move here. One thing you said was the writing, so let's get into that. So I'm an author or going to be an author. I'll be getting some books published. Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about that. Crossing off something on my bucket list, but I do two genres. One is children's books, so I created my own little children's book series that I'm hoping will pick up and I'll eventually turn into a cartoon. And I'm also writing, I don't even know if it's a genre, but I call it policy and social awareness, where it's me really throwing out my idea so that people can get to know me, as a future leader, basically. But Jake, this is about you, so tell me what do you write about?
First of all, congratulations. Writing anything is the biggest feat. So I applaud you on that.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I write fiction, and I really like to stay in the science fiction, fantasy, magic sort of realm. I've started to deviate from that slightly, and it's been fun because it's been really, really challenging to not use an external force like magic to sort of tell your story. I think for me, it forces me to be a little bit more honest with my characters, which is really fun because I get to flesh them out. But I do anything from sketch comedy writing to television pilots to feature films to short films. Um, and all of it is queer. I don't have a single straight storyline unless it's absolutely necessary. All the main characters are queer. All the main characters are either male, female, gender nonconforming. Like a pilot I'm working on, I have two queer characters, and then the third character that's sort of integral in the whole storyline is gender nonconforming. And the reason why I came up with that was because I had a table read for it, and a gender nonconforming individual read for it. And I was like, holy shit, if I can swear on here, sorry. um, I was like, that's incredible. And I didn't even think of that. And that's on me. And I was like, oh, that just totally like blew open the box. So I basically like to keep it queer. I like to keep it fun. I like to keep it magical. And I like to throw a little bit of comedy into there, a little bit of dark comedy, make you cry, but also make you laugh.
Oh, and I like that. I mean, and I think the fact that you center around, queer storylines, main characters. I think to me, it's reminiscent of what we were talking about Georgia. It's what Tyler Perry does. He centers around African American actors and actresses to highlight our community. The people within the community have they have to do those sorts of things, highlight their own community because no one else is doing it. So you're doing the right stuff there. One of the things, I guess, well, let's talk about comedy because you were talking about comedy a little bit. So let's move to that. I have a friend who does. Do you do stand up?
I don't do stand up, no.
Okay, no, I know you do improv, which is totally different. And even though I kind of think of, I'm not the same, but think of stand up, I think of improv. I'm just like, man, that's a lot. I mean, I get that Deb and I we improv with the news and whatever, but we kind of have something to go off of, and we just talk a bunch of crap. But when you're improvising on stage, I mean, you really have to. I mean, you almost have to know where you're going, even though you don't know where you're going, to actually make the story. So my question is, when you're doing like your sketch comedy, your improv or whatever, what's going through your mind?
That's a good question. Um, the first question is probably, ah, shit, what do I say? And then, of course, I get back to the principles of it all, which one really fun thing about improv is that a lot of people think that it's just no rules. And it's like, no, no, no. There are rules, there's structure, and the structure is put there so that you have sort of a bare bones skeleton to work with, and then you fill it all up. And then the really great thing is once you get really, really, really good at filling up those bones and kind of getting everything in between the meat of it all, then you can break it all away and do whatever you want. And then those, like the people that you know about who are on improv teams, like Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, so many more people, they have figured out how to do it so well that now they can break it and do it differently. And people want to be that, but they kind of sort of like jump ship and go to that. And that's when you get sort of the improv that's like, what's happening here? Like people are just screaming on stage. But probably the biggest thing that comes to my mind is the reminder: listen and react. It doesn't matter what you want to say, because don't think about what you want to say. React honestly to what that person is saying to you, and don't try to be funny, because 99.9% of the time it won't be funny. Your honest reaction to what somebody has said to you is the funny. And if you guys are working well together, if you guys are volleying off of each other really nicely, then somebody's going to identify that the other person did something weird. And everybody goes to improv to see the weird thing, right? But there's a sort of elegant way to sort of punch that weird up and make it really funny and draw it out so you're just laughing and laughing. And all of that starts with listen and react. Take a breath. It's going to be okay.
I like that. Yeah, I think that so many aspects of life are about listening, and we often don't like to do that. So that's really really important. And talking about all this funny, it makes me think. I hear some different improvisers or comedians talk about their where they get their funny from. They may say their cousin or this job or whatever, where they're just constantly pulling all these encounters from and just really making these elaborate sketches. So I don't know if you have like a person or instance or the time in life that you kind of pull your funny from, but where do you get it from?
My funny bone.
I like
Uh,
I like how general that is.
I would say in all reality, I would probably get my humor from my dad, because my dad has an off-color humor, so I've had to shift it over the years. But my dad is always cracking a joke. If he's in the hospital, like my mom just had an eye surgery, it turned out fine, she's okay. But my dad was cracking jokes with the
Mhm.
doctor, and we go stand in line at a fast food restaurant, and he's talking to the person next to him. He's got zingers left and right. And I always grew up trying to be that sort of witty, always have something to say, kind of be funny. And yeah, so I guess he would be my comedy icon. Oh, and
Nice.
Jim.
Hey, that's I think everyone who's oh yeah, you got. I think if you're going to do improv, I mean, you got Jim Carrey. I would if I was probably in improv. I think mine would probably be Steve Carell if I had to pick somebody because I really really like The Office and he's hilarious. But I do love some Jim Carrey. The Mask, can't ever forget that. I guess the last question to kind of round this little segment out here. If someone said, Jake, I need you to pick. Are you going to be an actor? Are you going to be a model? Are you going to be a comedian? Are you going to be a writer? Which direction do you choose if you had to pick one?
Well, first of all, I would say the limit does not exist. But second of all, I would probably say that if I had to choose only one to do, that's really tough. It would definitely be between acting and writing because they both fill me up in such different capacities that I would I would probably be a writer first. And the reason why, and not to get all gushy mushy on you, but the reason why is because there isn't any content pushing forward the LGBTQ plus community right now. So if I was an actor, I'd be serving heterosexual stories. So I would rather write original stories that lift up the community so that other people can act in it and we can push it all forward and make a space for our brothers and sisters.
I like that. See, that's great. Good, good. Man, this has been a really great interview. Viewers, stick with us. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, as always, we like to end our episodes Black Agenda style with the final message. So stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, viewers, let's get back into the final message here. I want to do something a little extra in the final message just because, Jake's actor, model, all kinds of things. So before we get your final thoughts, please tell us what are your upcoming projects?
Sure. Right now, I have two auditions coming up, two or three auditions coming up, which is really exciting. I am in the process of looking for an agent and potentially a manager. We'll have to see. And I'm also writing a pilot that I'm going to be shopping hopefully later in the spring summer area. I'm finishing up the treatment and the pitch deck now. I am working on a feature film. I'm also working on oh my gosh, my brain, a short film, like I said before. And I'm hopefully going to be collaborating with one of my buddies in New York with a comedy series that he's written that is really, really stellar. So hopefully all those things kind of come together. But as for me personally, it's like that pilot is first and foremost. That's like my little baby. It's in my heart.
Good. I know. Whenever I wrote my first policy and social awareness book, yeah, it's your pride and joy, and then you pass it off to your publisher, and they get ready to edit, and you're just sitting there waiting to hear all the bad stuff. But no, I get you there.
Yeah.
Other than your upcoming projects, the other thing, social media. How are people gonna know what you're doing and know how to follow you?
Definitely. So on Instagram, I am at Jake Dean Taylor. On Twitter, at Jake Dean Taylor. I need to be posting there more often, but it's very gay. It's very fun. And on TikTok, I think I'm at Jake Dean Taylor as well, but I don't really post on that. I have somebody else doing. Anyway, I'm collaborating with somebody else's TikTok, and it's wild and fun and zany. But Instagram and Twitter are the two places where I'm more active.
Good deal. I hadn't gotten on the TikTok train yet. Like I don't have it personally. I know that I'm gonna have to get it because my marketing director for the publishing company was like everyone's using TikTok. It's very trendy, so you got to get on there. So I'll have to get some tips, I guess, from your collaborative partner to figure out how to use TikTok efficiently. But to end our episode here, with our last thoughts, Jake, one of the things that I was thinking about is the fact that 2020 is a brutal year for everybody. There's a lot of job loss in all industries, pretty much, and I think there was a lot of opportunity for people to lose inspiration and lose a little bit of their edge. So, despite all of the things that have happened, um, leave our viewers with something that is very lasting. Leave them with the motivation that you have. That despite this year, maybe you had some gigs that got canceled, but you knew that you were going to have to push through, or maybe because of the pandemic, there was going to be more difficulty really being able to collaborate with other people. What was the thing that just really motivated you to make sure that you've got to push through despite all the odds?
I think the thing that made me push through despite all the odds is first, it's made me very happy. that's sort of my escape. But also the fact that nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is pioneering. Nobody else is giving, specifically for me, the LGBTQ plus community, the space that we need to be telling our stories, and that is what makes me wake up in the morning. That's what makes me put my hands on home row on my laptop. That's what makes me keep my acting skills up and fresh. That's what makes me keep my improv skills up and fresh. It's because when things do open up and the rubber hits the road, I have got to be ready to start making queer content for the LGBTQ plus community. And there's just no excuses for me. I have to do it.
No, I like that, and I think that that's what our viewers and everyone, I always tell people you got to have that vision, you got to have that anchor. I always tell people, mine is kind of I don't want to just live and die, but I want to be somebody that actually transforms society. So it's something that it always is like your driving force, and I like yours. I mean, that's powerful because you're absolutely right. You don't have people on CNN or MSNBC or any other news outlet that's talking about what you're talking about, and you don't have like a dedicated producer or a production firm that's really designating their time to that. So what you're doing matters, and I think for our viewers, that's enough within itself. That if you don't feel that what you're doing matters, viewers, remember that because there's not a lot of people that are probably doing what you're doing. You're unique, and your uniqueness makes what you do special. So, Jake, yeah, that was awesome. Appreciate that. Yeah, so that'll do it for us viewers. Jake Taylor Dean. I'm sorry, I don't know why. I think it's because you've got two first. Your names are like two first names. So I knew I was gonna like screw up the order at one point, but sorry about that. Jake Dean Taylor. Been awesome getting a chance to talk with you, getting a chance to know you, getting your feedback on some of the current events, your motivations and things like that. So we really, really, really appreciate you, having some time to be on the Black Agenda podcast. We'll definitely have to have you back once some of these projects start, hitting and being out there, so you can fill us in on what's going on.
I would love that. And thank you so much for having me. I very, very much enjoyed talking about myself. No, I enjoyed having the platform to be able to kind of discuss these topics that I think are on people's minds. And, maybe they feel like they don't have anybody to talk to about it. So I'm happy to maybe be that.
Hey, viewers, you've heard it here. Jake says if you need somebody to talk to, he'll talk to you. So hit him up on that. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, and he'll talk to you.
Definitely.
All right, Jake, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. And until next time, viewers, catch us on our weekly roundups. Remember, always Saturday, 7:30, and then our regular episodes always coming out on Tuesdays. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll catch you next time.